All right, thank you everyone for joining our College App Kickoff. My name is Amy Bencomo, College and Career Center Specialist at Prospect High School. Before I introduce you to our guest, I'd like to encourage students to use the chat box for College Women Expert. Also, I'd like to request parents with questions to contact our guest directly via email or myself after the presentation. Our students, especially our seniors, have priority, and we want our students to have agency during these presentations. So with that being said, league and fabulous person, Linda Dannemiller of University of Nevada, Reno.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to come and talk to all of you. And I dearly love Amy just as much. She's a fantastic colleague of mine, and I always enjoy seeing her and coming down to visit your school as well as the other schools in the San Jose area. A little bit about me. I'm going to date myself. I've worked in college admissions now for about 26, 27 years. I've worked for both private and public institutions in California, as well as all over the country. So today, and again, my name's Linda. I currently work at University of Nevada, Reno, and I am their Bay Area regional representative. So I actually live here in California. I'm based over here in Napa, so a little bit north of where you're at. So I cover all of the Bay Area for the recruitment for the university. And we do get quite a few students from California. It's our #1 state where we pull students from. So with that being said, what I'm going to talk to you about today is why you should consider a school outside of California. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about comparing them with our state schools, why you should maybe add a couple on your list outside of California. Obviously, Nevada's probably the closest one outside of California. And just talk a little bit about like ways you can get some extra money by leaving California and considering out-of-state schools. So let me just move on through the presentation here. So I just want to talk a little bit about like our university system here in California. We have a wonderful state. As you know, there's our UC campuses, our Cal State campuses, junior colleges, great opportunities to start there and then move on to some of our UC Cal States. And then we also have private universities in California. But what you need to remember while we have this great system here is we have all these students in other parts of the country that are sitting there formulating their college lists for this fall, and they're maybe sitting over in Chicago, Boston, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go to the sunshine and I don't want to go to Florida. I don't want to go to Arizona. I want to go to San Diego or San Francisco and experience California. So what you need to remember is we have a great system in California, but we also have a lot of students here in the state. And we also have a lot of students coming to us from out of state. So what that means is, well, I just kind of want to show you here. If you look outside of California, sometimes we just forget there's all these other universities. This is a map of the United States. You can see over on the East Coast, obviously, that's where, you know, most of I would say the heaviest population of colleges. But then, you know, don't forget about the Midwest. There's great schools there, of course, the West and Southwest. And I guess I want to challenge you after this presentation today to look at 2 schools outside of California that you would have never considered. So I want you to add them, research them, apply there. You know what, if you stay in California, great. Like I said, we have a great system, but don't just think inside our state because it is competitive and students do need other options. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about why you need options outside of California. So we throw around this word impacted, and what that means is, again, while we have a great system here with the CSUs, UCs, a lot of our majors here are impacted, meaning that you may get into the school, for instance, like you may get into UC Davis, but you might not get your major there. So meaning that impacted means that there's too many students for that major. So a lot of our public system schools here have impacted majors. And then students then start looking at the private schools in California, and then some of their majors get impacted. One of the main majors that's highly impacted throughout the state is nursing. So if you're considering nursing, it would be really in your benefit to look outside of California. So when you start to look at lists of majors and you're researching them, you start in California, make sure you find out, what you're looking at. A lot of our majors that are impacted in California would be the sciences, engineering, business. So those are some heavy impacted majors. So there are ways to get in, not saying you can't. Like I said, we have a great junior college system. That's a way to do it. But I do want you, again, to think outside of California, because when you step outside the state, you're going to find you can get direct admission to all the majors. So most of the out-of-state schools are not impacted, meaning you don't have to worry about getting a certain GPA, getting in that major. You do want to ask admission reps when they come to your school, if maybe you're looking at business or engineering, asking them, is your program impacted? They'll probably say no, but you also want to ask, do you have to have a certain GPA to get in that program or certain classes? But one of the benefits, circling back to what I just said, is most of our schools outside of California do not have impacted majors. So with an impacted major, you might have to go an extra year. So parents don't want to pay an extra year of tuition. None of us want to pay that. So you want to make sure you can graduate in 4 years. And at a lot of these institutions, 90% of them outside of California, you're going to graduate and get your classes, graduate in 4 years, and then be able to go on to that graduate program you're looking into, or go out to the job, the workforce, and get that job, which will make parents very happy. So why should you consider going out of state? I love talking about this to students. Again, we live in such a fantastic place. It's kind of hard to leave California. But if you step outside of California and you go go tour other schools, you get to meet new people. You really gain independence by going away, even if it's just to Nevada or Arizona or Utah, even staying West Coast. You don't have to go as far as the East Coast, but you certainly can. You get outside of your comfort zone. You get to eat new foods. You experience a lot of different culture. And one of the things I always tell students is, if you go away to college and you come back and you're maybe back in, the Bay Area, and you're in a job interview, and, as we know, everything's pretty mobile today, and companies expect people to travel and be well traveled. So if they see that you maybe stepped outside of California and you went to school down in Texas, or you went over to the East Coast, they might say, hey, this person's going to be fine if we ask them to go fly to Boston for a business meeting. So kind of think of it like that. You're going to come out prepared academically. I hope all of you will, but also think about the skills you'll gain by stepping outside of what you know in your comfort zone. And it's just fun to go outside of California and at least tour universities. And if you decide on one, great. And there's a lot of students that leave California. I mean, in my 27 years of working college admissions, I've worked with a lot of students that have gone as far as the East Coast for schools that I've previously worked for. So keep that in mind in terms of, why you should consider the out-of-state option. Another thing too is when you're considering out-of-state, you want to consider the tuition, the room and board. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute, but you also want to factor in, if you do narrow down to a couple colleges outside of California, is it drivable? Like, do they have direct flights on Southwest, like getting to and from the college? And then also any personal expenses that you'll have with going outside of California. Now, one of the ways that colleges make it marketable for students to go outside of California is that we have different costs that we're able to bring the cost down to make it more, affordable for you. We don't expect you to step outside of California and pay high tuition. One of the things that students and parents sometimes I guess they walk up to college fair tables and they pick up a brochure and they look at maybe like George Washington University over in DC, and they see that tuition cost is like $68,000 a year. Well, you're never going to pay that at a private school. I want you to understand that if you look at private universities, even in California, they are going to be able to give you more. They cost more, so they're going to get the cost down to be what a public cost would be in state or out of state. So I want you to kind of forget about how much a school costs if it's private, because they have a lot more scholarships and things to give you. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. And they have this word that's called endowment. They have a bigger endowment. So like that means that people are giving them a lot of gifts. Public universities don't have as much endowment as a private university. So a lot of that money goes into merit scholarships or grants for students to get the cost down to be what a public university would cost. Another way that our public universities that border California bring the cost down, and what I'm going to tell you about today, my expertise, because my school has this program, it's called the Western Undergraduate Exchange Tuition Program. And basically it's public universities, not all, but about 150 of them that border California do kind of like, I call it like neighbor state tuition discount. So sort of like a reciprocity. Little history about it, like back in the 80s, the governors of all these states, Montana, Utah, New Mexico, got together and said, hey, you know what, let's make it enticing for students to leave their state and go to another state in the Western United States and not have to pay that out-of-state tuition cost. Because, and I didn't make this clear at the beginning, if you leave California and you go to a public school outside of California, for instance, University of Nevada, Reno, you're going to pay that out-of-state tuition costs. So they came up with this program to lower the out-of-state tuition costs called Western Undergraduate Exchange Tuition. We call it WUE for short. So when you're going into your fall and you're researching colleges, and if it's a public university in the Western United States, you should find out if they participate in this program. These are the states that participate in WUE. So again, to make it clear, not all public universities have the WUE program. For instance, a lot of times parents and students think University of Colorado at Boulder is part of WUE. They don't offer it. Sometimes parents and students think University of Oregon is part of WUE and they don't offer it. However, University of Arizona has WUE, University of Utah, Washington State University, University of Nevada, Reno. So there's a lot of options for you in the WUE program. So you should be asking the rep when you meet them, if they work for a public school, they come to your school, ask them if they're part of the WUE program. That's the first question you should ask. So just a little bit about it. Again, the history, founded back in the 80s. Like I said, the governors got together and said, let's make it, appealing for students to leave their states and go to other states. And there's about 150 2- and 4-year public institutions in WUE. And just to show you, we're saving over $417 million for students. So this is 2018. I'm sure it's more, but it really is a significant savings. And I'm going to explain how it works. So with WUE, so as I said earlier, you leave California, you go to one of these Western states, or you go to any state, like even Alabama, and it's the public system. You're going to pay that non-resident out-of-state tuition, which is higher than what students pay in state. But if you go to a school that has a WUE program like Nevada or New Mexico or Utah, you're going to pay WUE tuition, which is just under the out-of-state tuition cost. So this is general numbers. All tuition costs differently at different universities, but say, resident tuition for in-state students at a WUE school is $10,000. The non-resident tuition, so if you come from California and you go to Utah, Nevada, wherever it is, you're going to pay $25,000. But WUE tuition brings the cost down to just over in-state tuition. That's why it's such an incredible deal. And then some WUE schools will offer scholarships on top of WUE. Nevada's one. Not all of them do it, but it is definitely something that you should look into. You should all be looking into scholarships regardless of where you're looking. But a lot of WUE schools will add merit money on top of WUE, making it even cheaper. So how is WUE determined at schools? Now, this is different again at every school that's in the WUE program. So when a rep comes in and visits your school, the first thing you need to do is ask them what, a lot of these schools determine it by GPA. All WUE schools have done away with test scores. As you know, everything's test optional now. So we don't require test scores. If you have them, great. This is specifically for Nevada. But if you talk to a school that's participating in WUE, you should ask them, what is your GPA requirement? Now, at Nevada, ours is a 3.25 to get WUE, and it's good for all majors. I know at University of Utah, theirs is a 3.0. So they're all very different. University of Montana, I think, is a 3.4. So they're all very, very different. So the main question you need to ask is, what's the GPA requirement? Another question you need to ask is, do all majors get WUE? So some schools give it to every major, like Nevada gives it to every student that qualifies. Some schools limit it by major. So ask them if it's good for only certain majors. And then also just ask them about deadlines, because that's another big one. Like WUE schools have different deadlines. Like Utah, you have to apply by December 1st for WUE. If you don't get it. So pay attention to the deadlines. Ours is February. We extend it typically. I don't know that we will every year. So I tell students, get that application to us by February 1st. But again, paying attention to deadlines, which is something you should be doing everywhere you're looking at. But ask them specifically what their WUE deadline is. Now, most WUE schools don't have a separate application. They will automatically review you when you apply for admission. There is one school, and I think it's Montana or Wyoming, that does have a separate application for their WUE program. I can't specifically remember which school that is, but you can definitely ask the rep. So these are all great questions to be asking. Usually they don't limit the number of WUE awards that go out, but you could ask them, say, hey, if I don't apply by the deadline, but you extend it, is there a limited number? And then also Fafsa, which is the free application for federal student aid. I'm going to talk about it here in a minute. It's typically not a component in whether or not you are awarded WUE. WUE is sort of like a merit scholarship, essentially it is. So FAFSA is not coming into play with that, which I'll explain that here in a minute. So a little bit about scholarships. As I said, most colleges have scholarships, and students qualify for those by applying for them. Now, again, WUE is typically an automatic award. You don't have to apply for it. You don't have to send an essay. But then also, you know, there are sometimes they'll ask you to submit a scholarship application and they will award merit on top of it. Circling back to what I said earlier, you know, a lot of times private colleges can cost the same or less than attending an in-state grants and scholarships. Some schools, as far as the Midwest and the East that I've interacted with before, well, one I worked for, just give students money to leave California. I worked for a school back outside of Chicago that gave students $6,000 on top of any merit they got, just to leave the state and enroll at our school, at the school I worked for. So there are schools that are just basically giving students money because they want more enrollment from California. So I want you to keep in mind that when you look at private colleges, again, don't rule them out because of the cost, because you're going to be able to get some pretty good grant money, which is like housing grant or scholarships based on your GPAs to bring the cost down to be really competitive to what like a UC would be. So just touching quickly on FAFSA, I don't know if you've had any information on it, but I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about it. FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It opens in October of your senior year. And until you apply for it, you don't know how much your cost is going to be. And your cost based on financial aid at each university you apply to. So you'll put down university codes on the Fafsa and send it off to each school you're applying to. Going back to what I was just saying, your cost, your bottom line cost at these schools is going to be different because every college costs differently. So they come up with what's called an EFC, which stands for Estimated Family Contribution. And that's basically, they look at your taxes, any property, all this financial stuff, and they put together an EFC saying this family can afford this much for college. And again, your EFC can look a little bit different at each school because each school costs differently. So ways to bring the cost down through financial aid would be grants, free money. Sometimes those come in the form of housing grants. Cal Grants is obviously in state. So if you're looking outside of California, you wouldn't qualify for a Cal Grant. Work study, working on campus and putting that money towards your tuition. Sometimes that's part of a financial aid package. And then student loans, which would be like a Stafford loan. Students typically qualify for those. And then scholarships are in addition to financial aid. So WUE would be somewhat of a scholarship. But like I said, some WUE schools will actually stack merit on top of WUE. And they require, I'm going to tell you how we do it, but they require a separate application for scholarships. So that's a little bit about financial aid. I'm sure you'll hear more about it. But students sometimes think that you have to apply for FAFSA and all this and that to get WUE. You don't need to fill out a FAFSA form to get WUE, but we always recommend it because you'll qualify maybe for some grants, work study, and loans. So if you have questions about that, feel free to ask me. So kind of in summary, I just want to kind of go back to what I was saying. So it's important to understand state schools have, there's private and public options. The privates always cost a little bit more, but they can cost less if you are getting a pretty good award from them. And then WUE obviously is a fantastic way to save money if you're looking heavily on the West Coast at public universities. And, I do want to circle back to what I said earlier. Have fun with this. Add 2 or 3 schools. Go home today and just go on a website and check out a school maybe over on the East Coast, or maybe you have family in Texas, or maybe you vacation in Arizona. Find a school and check it out. All of our schools now, because we're all on Zoom and did all this fun stuff during the pandemic, we're all running, virtual tours, and it's so much fun to just go on and find information, and, you might really like it and then decide to go visit the school. So don't just think, California, think of a couple schools outside of California. And if you end up here, great. I mean, I just want students to always think about, kind of expanding their college search and having fun with it. I don't want you to feel stressed out. It's a really good way of just learning about yourself and having fun. So I'm just going to quickly talk a little bit about University of Nevada because I work there and it's a good WUE example. So obviously Reno, I don't know if any of you have been there, but it's about 4 hours away from where you're at. We're drivable. We're about 45 minutes from Lake Tahoe, so you don't have to get on a plane, although we do have flights from San Jose on Southwest if you want to fly, and maybe if it does snow up in Tahoe. So we do have those flights on Southwest. In terms of our population, we're about 21,000 undergraduate students, lots of new buildings. We have been adding, I've been on staff now for 7 years, and we probably have 12 to 15 new buildings on our campus. So lots of new construction. They're always putting money into our school. We have a brand new engineering building that's beautiful that just opened. And in fact, I just got to see it. As I told you, I live in the Bay Area, so I go up to campus and I'm like, oh, what are they building now? So I just saw our new engineering building, and it's awesome. It's very, very high tech, lots of great research equipment there. but we have no impacted programs. So 145 academic programs, direct admission. So we look at your core curriculum similar to your A to G core that you're doing for California. We are a Division I athletic school, lots of school spirit. So students are always wearing their Nevada Wolfpack gear on our campus. Lots of diversity. So if you want a school that's highly diverse, Nevada Reno is going to be it. We have a huge diverse campus population. Our students are coming from all over, mainly West Coast, California, but we do get students from all over the United States. We have a nationally known study abroad program. So we host the USAC office on our campus, which actually plans study abroad programs for other universities, but that's right on our campus. So if you want to study abroad, Nevada Reno is the place to be. We host students in 28 countries, and we have 250 student organizations. So lots going on our campus for students to do. So we are WUE, and we offer it to all majors. It's nice because if you get into Nevada and you have this 3.25 unweighted GPA, we will offer you a tuition discount of about $12,000 a year, putting your tuition around $12,000 a year, your room and board somewhere around $9,000-$10,000. So for just over $20,000, you can come to Nevada, get your classes. You can even come in undecided. I mean, I know sometimes students are really undecided on a major, and that's absolutely okay. We have an exploratory program, so you can come in undecided and still graduate in 4 years. So no separate application. You are automatically reviewed when you fill out our application. We have a second tuition discount. And again, every school is different. We offer a second tuition discount called the Nevada Advantage tuition discount, which takes about $8,000 off your tuition. So if you don't qualify for WUE, but you have the 3.0 weighted GPA, which is what you need to get in, we look at a 3.0 core curriculum. If you have that 3.0 and you're admissible, we're going to take $8,000 off your tuition per year. So these are tuition scholarships per year. It's not just your first year. You would get either WUE $12,000 off your tuition. Well, it's almost $13,000 every year, or you'd get Nevada Advantage, which is about $8,000 per year. So total cost with WUE or Nevada Advantage, you're looking at about $22,000 to $26,000 to attend the university with housing. We have all kinds of different housing on our campus. Again, scholarships, I like to tell students that we're really easy to apply to. We're not on Common App, but we have our own application on our website. It's super simple to fill out. We don't require an essay for admission, but if you're writing an essay for the Common App, why not send it to us for a scholarship consideration? So we give merit scholarships that range anywhere from $600 up to $8,000. And it's a holistic review. We look at your essay, we look at your curriculum, and that's stackable on top of WUE. So if you want to submit a scholarship application, that's due by February 1st of your senior year. And again, you know, no essay required for our general application. So if you have that Common App personal statement, just drop it in our essay application or our scholarship application. And my information is right here. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. I dropped a picture of snow on our campus right here. It does snow. We do get 4 seasons, but it's not like it sticks. Like we could get a snowstorm come through. It's usually if it's snowing, or usually if it's raining in the Bay Area, it's snowing on our campus. And then it's, you know, could be 60 degrees and sunny, you know, the next day. So we do get all 4 seasons because we sit right on the cusp of Tahoe, right there. So if you like the outdoors, you like mountain biking, hiking, snowboarding, we're all within 40 minutes of that. So if you want that atmosphere and you want a big Division I school that's always cheering on their sports teams, we have a lot of that going on. And we also have great open house days called Nevada Bounds, where they're every Friday in the fall semester. So if you want to drive up to campus and check us out, Nevada Bound is a structured open house. So we let you come and talk to different departments. You actually go out and see facilities. Then we offer lunch for you on campus. You get to see how good our food is. And trust me, it's good. I've worked for six or seven colleges in my career, and University of Nevada, Reno, just, it kills it. Their food is so good. I actually love coming up to campus and eating in our dining halls. So you get to come and eat our food if you come and visit, and talk to faculty and get a good picture. You can see residence halls. So those are all on our website, and you can register for those right now. All the dates are posted. And thank you for having me. That's about all I have. If you have any questions, my email is right here, and I will be visiting your school as well as all the schools down in San Jose this fall. I'm excited to be back in person and interacting with students. We're all really excited to come and see you guys this fall. So thank you again for joining me, and maybe I'll just open it up for questions.
Definitely encourage students to ask questions, because you covered a lot of information, and I tried to put some stats in there or information just to complement what you were saying. And I do want to highlight that going out of state is similar to studying abroad, because if you've only grown up in California, that's all you know. The US is large, and every area has their own personality. And I mean, if you look at SoCal versus NorCal, it's like that amplified. Politically, when I talk to students, and there may be some, I guess, apprehension about, maybe studying in a different part of the US with different ideology, I tell them, like, that's why you should study, so you can better understand, especially if you're interested in political science. You can also register to vote wherever you go. So maybe you can be part of a change. So those are things to consider. The cost of attendance is huge, because based on your GPA, you could take advantage of the hard work you've already put in, and then go to another state, graduate faster, graduate in their honors college, and have a good experience. I do want to add, I love Nevada, Reno. I had the best vanilla honey latte when I was there with Linda a couple years ago. And we had fun going onto the football field, unscripted, maybe a bit of a break-in, but that hasn't been confirmed. And so I encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities.
Well, thank you again. And thank you for saying such great things. We enjoyed having you. That was a fun day. So, but yeah, I mean, you guys just check out 2 schools outside of California. I would love it if one was Nevada. If it's not, no big deal, but go and research a couple of them. You'll be surprised. And yeah, going to another part of the country, sometimes students are apprehensive, but university towns are, they're very, you'll find all kinds of people like in different university towns around the country. And so don't think that it's going to be, like if you're looking at maybe a school in Texas, that they're all going to be a certain way, thinking a certain, I mean, every school is so different. And if it's a college town, it's going to be like amplified. I mean, college towns are so fun. And even if you stay in California, great, but like, go check them out, like go fly somewhere and take a tour and just have fun with it.
I'm glad you have this map up, because another point of interest is, if you look at the state of Nevada, there's a couple of other schools there, but there's only 2 public schools, which means there's more funding. So look at the map. Maybe Idaho, Wyoming only has 1 public school. So if you take a look at that, that might be how you start your search to explore. And know your GPA. You can use cost of attendance. Just Google cost of attendance, name the school, and then it will create a guesstimate for you, like a little profile. Another tool is Edmit, which is EDMIT. I have it in one of my newsletters, or you can email me, ask for that, and you create a profile and you're able to compare schools by their cost. So that's, I find that really interesting. But definitely take advantage of Linda's suggestion, because when you explore, this is part of finding out what your priorities are, and it helps you determine them, which will help you with your college applications, especially when you're writing your personal statement.
Agree. Yeah.
Okay, so I know I've talked a lot, but if you guys have any questions, just chime in. But if you feel like, okay, I'm good, you have our permission to log off. Just say thank you before you leave. And because I do appreciate your expertise, Linda. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, this was so fun.
It's fun. I like kicking off the year this way.
I'm so excited to come and see you guys.
I know. I'm hoping that our building will be complete.
Oh, you have a new building?
We have a new building, but it's not quite done. So
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe another month and a half, get it done.
hopefully. Yeah. And I already have Prospect on rep visits.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking the other day. So thank you for putting that up because a lot of schools aren't up yet. So
Well, it is early.
no, it's good because we're all, looking to try to get those scheduled. So,
Yeah.
but thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And we have another session in 20 minutes, so you have time to stretch, maybe think about some questions. I think the next session is on the UCs, and that's always fun. That one may not be recorded, so you want to watch that. Let me